Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the book concert. Unfortunately, I won't be able to join you in person today because I'm teaching a group of students at an international climate summer school in Grindelwald in Switzerland. In fact, Grindelwald is a fascinating place. It does not only have a breathtaking landscape, as you can see in the background, but it is a place where you can see the effects of global warming with your own eyes. I taught here at another summer school already in 2018, so 6 years ago, and just by looking into the mountains in my back, I can witness how quickly glaciers have retreated. In 2018, one small glacier called the Spider was still visible at 3 kilometers elevation, next to the famous Eiger North Face. Now it is gone, and when I look up, I just see a barren, empty rock there. While I spent part of my summer in Europe, you have all experienced a brutal summer in South Korea, with a record-breaking number of tropical nights and an unusually long stretch of high temperatures. Heat waves worldwide have been made more severe due to the effects of anthropogenic greenhouse warming. Of course, none of this is new to climate scientists, who have known at least since the 1990s that the unusual warming of our planet can be attributed without doubt to human emissions of CO2 and other greenhouse gases. What is new is that this knowledge is now moving from the abstract, dry realm of science into our daily lives. We can feel and experience that something is wrong with our planet. Global warming is not knocking at our doors anymore. This unwelcome guest is already in the room. It is important to ask why so little is happening to cut down CO2 emissions to prevent further planetary warming. Okay, so the Paris Agreement from 2016 was a good step forward, but let's be honest, the implementation of measures to cut down CO2 and methane emissions has been insufficient. And with the current measures in place, our planet will pass the 1.5 and even the 2 degrees Celsius warming goal set by the Paris Agreement. If climate scientists knew about this already for the last 40 years, why is it that governments have acted on it so sluggishly? Why do countries like South Korea not have more ambitious goals to save our planet and their citizens? Why do societies knowingly gamble with the future of their children? Well, the answer is shockingly simple. It is because in many countries, in particular in the United States, private and corporate interests associated with the fossil fuel industry have intentionally delayed further action. Why? Well, simply because their business models would be at stake if humankind would cure itself from its fossil fuel addiction. This is nicely laid out and exposed in the impressive book Merchants of Doubt by Harvard professor and science historian Naomi Orestes. The strategy used by fossil fuel companies to delay political action on the climate crisis is to seed and spread doubt and confuse the general public, claiming that scientists are not sure about the science and that we should not act because the underlying science has lots of uncertainties. This is, of course, nonsense. The climate expert community has had a clear scientific consensus on the human impact on planetary warming and its worsening effects in future in the absence of fossil fuel reductions since at least the 1990s. You can read about this consensus in the numerous reports issued by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. There is another trend that worries me. Recently, the conference of the party meeting short COP of the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change are now being hosted by petrostates, which have very little motivation to accelerate the path forwards towards carbon neutrality. Last year in the United Arab Emirates, this year in Azerbaijan. It is understandable from their perspective that they want to sit in the driver's seat on the negotiation process on how to save our planet. But we can all ask ourselves whether it is likely that they have the well-being of future world generations on their mind or something else. The good news is that we will be able to check easily whether countries and governments live up to their promises regarding cutting down CO2 emissions by comparing the nationally determined contributions, NDCs, with their actual implementation of decarbonization efforts. Societies or groups of concerned citizens can hold their governments accountable for inaction or lack of ambitions, as we just saw with the recent landmark decision of the South Korean Constitutional Court, which decided that the absence of legally binding targets for future greenhouse gas reductions for the period 2031 to 2049 violated the constitutional rights of future generations. Before the decarbonization process of our planet gets further delayed by groups with vested interests, it is important to make our own decisions as citizens based on the best available science. This is why science communication and outreach are crucial. This is why scientists from our IBS Center for Climate Physics engage in extensive outreach activities. Decision making requires knowledge and perspective. This is why the book launch today is important. Spreading knowledge about critical societal issues to the general public is an important step in improving science literacy and in allowing citizens, stakeholders, and policymakers to make rational decisions for the greater good of humanity. Enjoy the book concert and my best wishes from Switzerland.